everybody, September 7th, 2012, weekly wrap-up. Now before I get into the wrap-up, I want to talk to you a little bit and mention again a little bit about last week's wrap-up. We talked about singing out of tune, and I also wrote a little bit about it on the forum. So again, if you have access to the site, please go ahead to the forum now and read some of my suggestions about helping you improve your pitch. So we get that subject covered and keep working on it because it's a big one, right? Lots of people have problems singing out of tune. Even the best singers in the world sing out of tune sometimes. So what you want is a nice list to help you have the tools to understand how to go ahead and fix that. So last week on the wrap-up, again, we talked about problems with singing out of tune. What I'd like to address before I even get into the wrap-up today is the nasal pharynx and what that means to singing. Now, I'm always talking about chest, mix, and head. You want to know what the pathway to the mix is? It's the nasal pharynx. Now, I've talked before about the fact that we have a mouth resonator and a nasal resonator. And as we start to move from our mouth resonator into our nasal resonator, or the nasal pharynx, there's the difference between the hard palate and the soft palate in the back of the throat, and how air and sound is focused up through the nasal pharynx. And it actually has 3 layers. And those 3 layers have so much to do with how you place things. And again, I'm going to say it again. It is the pathway to mix, to really understanding mix, to feeling mix, to hearing that sound. Now that nasality sound is in every good voice. I'm not talking about sounding like I'm hanging out of your nose. Hey, hey. I have nasality, I have nasal resonance in my tone. Now, I guess a blatant example of that, it's kind of silly to talk about anybody, but I'll use Willie Nelson as an example. You can really hear the nasality in Willie Nelson's voice. And that's part of the personality of his voice. That's the way it sounds. And that nasality helps get a cut and makes him sound the way he sounds, very unique. But it doesn't matter if it's Celine Dion, or if it's Barbra Streisand, or if it's Christina Aguilera, or if it's Britney Spears, or if it's Adele. Everybody that's a good singer has nasal resonance because they're balancing their tone correctly from their chest into their mix, where we need this, up into the head voice, where even that nasality in the head voice will help blend from what's going on in the mix. So now, I'm going to say this again. There are 3 layers. There's a bunch of soft tissue in the back of the throat, the soft palate, and even up in the nasal passage. There's great videos that you can Google these days and see things about people putting cameras up people's noses and looking straight down their throat. And as they go up through the nasal passage, even there you can see the soft tissue. If a person says pa, 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 you would see pa, 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 this very soft tissue moving around in there. Now you're going to be hearing way more about the nasal resonator as the advanced vocal course comes out, because I'm going to be addressing the nasal pharynx and talking about it and giving you the ideas of what you can do with that and how that takes you to the next level of mix, strengthening your mix and understanding it. Again, I know I'm being redundant. The nasal pharynx is the pathway to the mix. Now there's more to it than that, because it takes you into the mix, and it's a good way to get there again to understand more about it. But what you finally have to do is something called split resonance. And what we do there is we've got a combination of what's going on in the nasal resonator and splitting to what's going on in the hard palate in the mouth. And when we split those resonance, then we start to have the balanced sound that every good vocal instructor is going for with their students. So a little info about the nasal resonator. Now, what did we do as far as covering what we did last week? More of the listen and recognize. C major, C sharp major, D major, and E flat major to all the random notes. Yeah, that's where we're at, and we'll be continuing on with that. But hey, next week we're going to start a new course, and you're going to see the beginning of a new course next week. So I'll look forward to introducing that and discussing that on next week's wrap-up. See you guys then.